People, Deluded, I'm back again. Hope you're all having a good weekend, specifically Saturday. I promised myself I weren't going to make no videos today. I like to take a day off, people, but you know when you're fighting temptation, it is what it is. In regards to what I'm going to do with today, as you lot can see, I've got a mop on my head. My hair is very curly. I'm going to try to secure a haircut. I mean, I'm still sexy without a haircut, but you know my thing. I'm serious chocolate darling with my hair's cut. And them things there. Probably chill off. We've got Arsenal versus Newcastle tomorrow. Gonna hit that. Probably link them and grab a bite to eat. And I'm sure a lot of you, in fact, my subscribers are very diverse. A lot of you got family. A lot of you are young. So depending on who you are, what sort of life stage you're at, I know you've got something different to do today. But I hope you all have a good weekend, regardless. And obviously, I'm sure you've all seen Manchester City have been fined, I believe, 29 to 30 million euros, and they're banned from the Champions League for the next 2 seasons, I believe. Forgive me if I'm wrong. Now, let's not get a bit excited. I think from reports you're seeing coming out, City have been preparing for this verdict for a while. They have a team of lawyers. They've been working on this, and they're going to take it to the is it CAS, the Court of Arbitration for Sport, or whatever it is, and challenge it. Apparently they're very hopeful the ban could be suspended when they can fight this. I don't know if it's going to be like a Barcelona thing or a Chelsea thing where you're banned. For instance, teams were banned from the window, but because they appealed it, they're allowed to sign players, sort of thing. I don't know if City, if this is overturned temporarily while they sort of go against it. And apparently they're very positive in regards to getting this overturned. So I'm sure Man United, Arsenal and Chelsea fans specifically, and Spurs, well, not really Chelsea because they're fourth, we're all licking our lips at this prospect, because if it does go ahead, 5th place is up for grabs. 4th place is up for grabs. I don't think it's Arsenal's, because we're 10 or so away from it. I just don't think we can do it. But 5th place is up for grabs, and that probably entices United, Spurs and Arsenal. You've got a chance to somewhat right the wrongs of a troubled season you've had, and somewhat cheat death, really, because none of these, how every team's played convincingly this season or over time, don't really deserve top 4. So with 4th place, 3rd and 4th, well, not 3rd, but you get what I mean. 5th place, 4th and 5th place are up for grabs, specifically 5th. Everybody should be wetting their mouths at that. Now, if you're Sheffield United or Wolves even, you're wetting your mouth at that, because if you look at from 4th to 10th where we are, we're on 31 points, I believe. United on 35, Everton on 36, Wolves are on 36, Spurs on 37, Sheffield United are 5th on 39. Obviously, a lot of, you know, there's goal difference and all of these things at play, people. So we'll have to see what happens. Certain people have criticised UEFA's ruling. I know certain people will cheer at this and saying Manchester City, you know, financial doping and things. I'm not saying they did, I'm not saying they didn't, but if you're going to do it to them, surely you've got to look at PSG, surely you've got to look at 2 Spanish clubs in particular as well, and just about everybody, because I can imagine nobody's hands is dirty, clean, sorry, and it's all dirty. This is obviously a win, if you could say, for the football purists of such, because on face value level, you're seeing somebody, you know, if they're being accused of financial doping and whatnot, and inflating things and money they're earning, then it is what it is. It is also a problem though, because away from City, in theory it does sound good. I'm not a finance man, but you can only spend what you make. That's decent. But if you're a genuine football manager and you want to invest, you're kind of being punished for investing, people. It kind of shows to a degree that FFP is a sham, depending on how you work it. And it's probably designed to allow big clubs to stay big without massive investment, and it allows you to chop and change. Like I said, Manchester City are confident that they'll be able to bust this case and whatnot, but I'm sure Arsenal fans, like I said, United, Chelsea, anyone that's trying to fight for 4th and now 5th, you've got an opportunity of a lifetime, really and truly, depending on what happens. I think Manchester City will stay 2nd and Leicester will stay 3rd, but depending on how they both had a wobble, them positions could be up for grabs between people around them. I'm not saying Arsenal are going to come there or United or anything like that, but it is going to be a good race. And if I'm Wolves and Sheffield, I'm sure they were targeting Europe if they in the winter break, based on how the season's going now. Why not? You should be enticed of it, people. Obviously, the Champions League would allow Arsenal to bring in certain players, United the same, which you're now starting to see the financial implications of United being out of it. Spurs and Jose would relish that. Obviously, it would be good for Carlo Ancelotti, and there's merits for everybody to want to get Champions League football, people. It's almost, the UEFA FFP regulation is almost like a lottery winner, people. It's almost like winning the lottery, I'm not going to lie to you. So we'll have to see. And again, games aren't won on paper, and Arsenal fans always do this thing where if we could win this and do this, and they entice themselves at going on a run, and I'm sure every fan will. It's a dream. But looking at it, football isn't won on paper, people. But if whatever the boys spoke about in the winter break, because you heard Arteta saying before this ruling of his former club, maybe Arsene Wenger and Arteta have done it again. Maybe Arteta knew this was happening and bust out. I mean, I'm not trying to say Wenger did this, but Wenger gets a prominent position in FIFA, and then little boys in UEFA compared to FIFA are starting to crack down on teams. That is City's a team Wenger was previously critical of. I'm not saying Wenger's done it again, but the man's done it again. So he left Arsenal to then know he was going to be FIFA president and then do this. Obviously, I'm joking, people. It's a bit of nonsense. But on a serious note, Arteta spoke of top four, and you can imagine in Dubai and whatnot, they were speaking in relation to it's going to be difficult but not impossible. And if they can galvanise, and again, ifs and buts don't win games, but if they can come together for the collective, you never know. This bombshell of fifth, and I don't want to get too focused and too gassed on fifth, because like I said, apparently City are still confident about getting this overturned, and they're fighting this with everything they've got, and apparently they've been preparing for this for a while, people, so it's not a shock. So there could be some developments. Obviously, if fifth is up for grabs, then if we've spoken about getting top four and there's now an additional place, we've got to go and fight for that, and we've got to go harder for that sort of thing, people. Looking at our games, again, there's no easy games, people. Like, there's no easy games, excluding the Europa League ties, and obviously we've got to play Portsmouth away. Our game against City away from home at the Etihad, a ground we haven't travelled too well of recent years. It's been postponed, but we've got to play them. We've obviously got Newcastle tomorrow. Next week we've got Everton, a resurgent Ancelotti side. We've got to play West Ham at home, which they've been, you know, in a bit of disarray, but we know them things there. When you come against Arsenal, it goes out of the window to a degree. We've got to welcome Norwich to our place, who drew against us and have also done some decent results this year. We've lost at Brighton previously. I'm never confident Brighton away, people. We've got to travel there. We've got to go Wolves and Southampton away. I'm sure Arsenal fans are definitely scared to go to St Mary's. And you know what happened last season when we went to Wolves. We've got to welcome Leicester at home, which they're third, so we've got to treat them with respect. We've got to go to White Hart Lane. I know it's not White Hart Lane anymore, but I'm always going to call Spurs' ground that. We've got to play Liverpool at home. We've got to go to Birmingham for Aston Villa. And our season ends with Watford at home. Now, these are tough games, people. We've got some difficult away games there. We've got, for me, I'm looking at the 3 tough away games. You've got Southampton, Wolves, and a North London derby. I forgot Brighton, but that's a tough game in itself. We've got to play Liverpool. You don't know how that game's going to go. We have to travel to the Etihad as well. And no disrespect, but in the next 2 weeks, we have Newcastle, who are doing well against big sides, and Everton. There's no easy games. The players Arteta can galvanise the players and make them buy into the belief that they can have more of a fight into the top 4 as much as he wants. We can see this UEFA ruling of Manchester City as much as we want and think there's an extra place up for grabs, in which there is. But at the end of the day, we can't deal with ifs and buts. The players need to go on a run, and it needs to start against Newcastle. They need to collect 9 to 12 points on the road. Again, I don't like to be the guy in ifs and buts, but if we didn't drop, you know, the points against Sheffield United, the Crystal Palaces, the draw against Everton recently, we've had 13 draws, so I'm not going to say the specifics, but I'm pretty sure there's been, you watched my reviews, you've watched Arsenal, there's been games we shouldn't have drawn, games we didn't start well, and as a result drew and lost and dropped points. You see what I'm saying? If even Burnley, we were toothless, it was 0-0, it's a good point, but it is what it is. If we didn't draw these games, what position would we be in? But as an Arsenal fan for years, we can say ifs and buts. If the ref was switched on in 2006, Arsenal would be Champions League winners, people. Do you get it? But we can deal with the facts. We're not. And the boys have to go on a run, because there's some tough games. Sounds cliche, but there's no easy games in the Premier League, people. So it's down to them. And I know I'm focusing on Arsenal because I'm an Arsenal fan, people. But if you're Arsenal, if you're, I keep throwing Chelsea into it, but Chelsea are 4th. If they drop out of that, they have to try and get 5th. If you're Chelsea, who's had a wobble, Arsenal have been having a wobble, Spurs having teething issues under Jose, having good results here and there, United, which is a tough season under Oli. Do you get it, people? Not everybody can get there, but all of them should be galvanised, and somebody's got to miss out, so we need to make sure it's not us. I think the funny thing as well is that I swear, people, a team that doesn't have 40 points right now could get Champions League. So technically, I think Arsenal on 31 points. We're not getting relegated, but as you know, 40 points is the safety net. So we're not even technically us, Chelsea. No, Chelsea have got it. Us, United, and I think Spurs. Nobody's on 40 points, and we all face the prospect of getting Champions League football. Sheffield United as well, and Wolves and Everton. Everyone below Chelsea essentially. On Manchester City though, again, if it gets overturned, it gets overturned. But they need to rebuild their team already. The Champions League again, I don't think players are gonna huff and puff and want to just get out of there and whatnot as quickly as they can. But you have to wonder, is Pep Guardiola, because it looked like he might need to step down anyways. He was going to step down anyways, on top of him having the urge to stay to fight back against Liverpool and put some credibility back on his name if there isn't any lost. I can't imagine you could talk down on a manager like that. He might say, you know what, there's no champs, let me bust out. The players, Sergio Aguero, again, he's spoken of going to Argentina, spoken of doing other things. There's no Champions League. I'm sure he'd want to chase Premier League titles and individual records, but he might keep it moving. Sane looks like he's got one foot out the door anyways. Does he want to keep it moving? Gundogan the same. I know Fernandinho signed a new deal, but there's a lot of aging players, just need for a rebuild. I think Kevin De Bruyne and these players stay, but you know, if they were to force Sterling as well, if they were to force their way out of the club, I don't know where they go. I mean, Sterling example, I could only see him going to the abroads, the Bayern Munich's, the Barcelona's, PSG, etc. I mean, football's funny. He could go back to Liverpool. You never know. It'd be quite the eventful one, people. Kevin De Bruyne have the pick of the clubs. If you're Real Madrid, you probably double down your interest in trying to get him and Sterling for markability purposes. But who knows, people? Like I said, they're gonna fight this with everything they have. So there should be some positives in relation to that. Moving on from focusing on that and some other couple of notes I've got, people. Apparently, according to the Express, Arsenal are lining up a 50 million transfer move for Norwich defender Ben Godfrey. It is believed Norwich value the 22-year-old at around 50 million, but their place on the negotiating table will weaken if they are relegated in May. Obviously, he's been linked with us a lot. You know, you got him, you got Max Aarons, you've got a couple of Jamal Lewis here and there. There's some decent players. I like him. He's 22, he's decent in the air, he can ball play, does make a couple mistakes and things, but I think I've seen him play well against Liverpool. He is very decent. 50 million, I mean, we might as well try and go for like Upamecano and that, even though I think fans sensationalise that individual as much as I want him at the club. But I'd be equally happy with Ben Godfrey. If they get relegated, or if we can negotiate both structure of the payments and obviously get a better deal, I'm on that. He's good with a ball at his feet. I like his confidence and his mentality. He's 22 in English, so with that, he can be part of the core that can move forward with the team. Obviously, he's 22 if he develops. There's obviously, again, with English players, it's always funny, but there's resale value of sorts there. And I wouldn't, you know, we need some centre-halves. I wouldn't be against bringing him in any capacity, if I'm completely honest with you, folks. Moving away from that, and Arteta has also had some comments to say on our summer signing starman Nicolas Pepe. He has said it's not easy to adapt to this league, but he's putting in the effort and he's willing to do it, and it will come out. The price that we paid for him puts him in a difficult position straight away, because he's going to be compared to players of that calibre. He was in France and he was one of the biggest stars in the league. He had an incredible year. Then he comes here and a lot of people don't even know him, and you paid that price tag. For him to put his brain into this picture and solve this, and solve all of this, is not easy. First of all, he needs the right structure. He needs the right structure behind him to be able to provide the moments of quality and winning games. After, he needs a much clearer picture of his head, that things are happening on the pitch and why they're happening and how he can solve them. And he also, I haven't got the quotes here, but he also spoke of responsibility. And what I take away from that is what we've all been saying. Obviously, he's another one. Footballers can't deal with being well, it's not his fault. He's been sensationalised. If you was watching Pepe for the last couple of seasons, well, last season and a couple of seasons before that was his real breakout seasons. He's had times at Angers, he's had times at Lille where he's been a decent player. He's still developing. He's not the finished article. He'll probably never be able to repay that price tag because he didn't pull it on him. So there's not going to be a lot of patience. He's coming to a new league. He didn't have a pre-season. He had an African Cup of Nations in which maybe in hindsight, this is how his season was going to go, because he was quite underwhelming there. So, you know, there's a lot to take on. There's a lot of factors as to why he hasn't been there. We've had Emre, who Pepe was in his first choice, plus not just Pepe, but Ceballos and Aubameyang and all these other players. There weren't really a structure and a system for them to thrive. He's shown in patches he's a decent player, like you see him with his dribbles. I do think at times he needs to learn when to dribble, when to keep it simple, when to actually shoot as well, people. I think there's a player in there. I think he's doing the right things, but obviously he needs to come up a bit. And for him, only him and Arteta seems to back him and rates him highly, but Pepe, he wants a reaction from Pepe, because if I saw prior to Nelson's injury, for example, Nelson was starting ahead of you. You should, obviously, if you earn your shot, you earn your shot, but you should think, yo, listen, I'm Nicolas Pepe, I'm 70-odd million. Who is this young player that's come through your academy that's been there for 2 years? He don't deserve to start over me. What am I not showing Arteta in training? All right, cool, I'm going to go and show it to him to get, because I think there is, I think Nelson's slightly better than him defensively, and I think that's what tips it, people, because Pepe isn't always on defending. And also, it's a lot of his mind. He's obviously lost confidence temporarily, but he's shown patches. He's shown patches with his 5 goals. He's got, only 2 from open play. He bagged a couple free kicks. He obviously scored the goal against United. I think he's a decent player. Obviously, Sheffield, when I thought he'd be alright is that dribble against Sheffield. It was a terrible end to the move, but for me, he's doing the right things. He's still having teething problems, but I don't really see him hiding and feeling sorry for himself. I think Pepe is going to be a decent player. But at the end of the day, like Arteta said in the comments I haven't got here, it's down to him to kind of take responsibility. We accept factors that he can't control, the price tag, the way the club's been going, still needs to adapt and learn his teammates. I don't think we play to his strengths either. But he's got to take some amount of responsibility. Why haven't you hit it off? What aren't you doing? Can you apply yourself more in training? Are you watching your videos game in, game out and scrutinising them potentially to the level you need to, people? I think I had some other comments. Yeah, he said, the other thing is he has his own responsibility for sure. He has been more consistent in his performances. He hasn't played 12 or 15 games in a row, which is a massive thing for players in those positions, which are much more difficult on the pitch to make an impact in the game. He needs to earn that with his performance. So basically, he's a decent player, but I need to see you when I start you next. When that game is done, you need to make sure that you're the only player I see in my head. Like in the same way Aubameyang and Leno, Torreira as well, first names on the team sheet. I need to be saying that again about Pepe. And really, it's not. You can have Nelson, you can move Aubameyang like you saw Aubameyang to the left. Martinelli will go on the right, purely for Lacazette to go through the middle. Lacazette doesn't deserve to start ahead of Pepe because he's managed to be even worse. But we know that's a bit different. Defensive contributions and all these things, Lacazette scores quite high. I think Pepe will come good, and it's a difficult one. I mean, it's tough because obviously football is funny in terms of banter, and I got my man them telling me that obviously I signed for Spurs, and they're telling me I'm better than Pepe, my Spurs man them. Obviously, there's a couple other players that have better goal scoring statistics, and as Arsenal fans, obviously, you know, we're not as understanding. Fans aren't as understanding when they're grilling their friends, but when I'm grilling my friends, I'm like, oh, stop being an idiot, man. He's just come to the league. He's just done this and that, and it seems like I'm cherry picking. But I think Pepe is a decent player, man. I'm happy with Pepe. I personally. Obviously, I want Pepe to improve, and I wouldn't say I'm necessarily happy in the sense of I feel he can do more in his performances. But I'm happy with, and it's not exactly a high bar, people, so I'm not using it to praise necessarily, but regardless of what people say about Nelson, Pepe, you can't really say anything on Saka and Martinelli when they play on the flanks. I believe these are 4 options that we never saw last season and 4 better options than we had last season. I like how Pepe is not afraid to take someone on. I think Nelson's very much a confidence player, but he showed me more than Mkhitaryan on the flanks. Obviously, Saka and Martinelli, whether Saka's playing on the flanks or at left back, I don't need to tell you what they're on. It's better than seeing Mesut Ozil and Mkhitaryan on the flanks like Emre did. Emre committed some serious acts of war at this club. No disrespect to Emre. And shout out to Ian Wright for getting at Emre as well with all them, you know, Emre sound like a itch. What rhymes with itch, people? Just crying over stuff, man. Just charge it to the game, man. Just charge it to the game. Your time at Arsenal didn't bang. Like, you can say what you want, but just charge it to the game, man. Real managers, real people who learn from mistakes and defeat, they charge it to the game, man. They say they consider there was factors he can and can't control, and then you go again in your next job and, you know, prove Arsenal wrong or whatever. But you're just harping on, man. You're moving like a bitter ex, man. Forever talking on Arsenal, but is what it is in that regards. I'm gonna keep it moving, people. I wanna go cut my hair. So on that note, Hopefully 5th place stays up for grabs and we can do something. Hopefully we can see a turnaround from Pepe. Hopefully we see a reaction from our players in relation to our trip to Dubai, so we can go on a sort of run and just start to win games again and whatnot, people. Obviously Ben Godfrey links. Hopefully there's some substance to that, because if it's not him, we need a centre half. We need somebody to come and play in defence at this club. But for now, people, there's really not much more for me to say. Like I said, laptop closed, topics done. But one love for always tuning in each and every time. Make sure you come and check my page on a regular basis, because you know there's more content to come. But for now, God bless DG.